We all get older. We all experience it. But what if our entire understanding of why we age is, well, just plain wrong? In this explainer, we're diving deep into one of biology's greatest mysteries and a brand new idea that could literally change everything we thought we knew. So let's start with a wild thought. What if getting old isn't about our bodies wearing out like an old car? What if it's actually an information problem? Like our biological software has just finished its main program, growing up, and now, without a new goal, it just starts to drift. That's the provocative idea we're going to unpack today. For centuries, aging has been one of science's most profound and, frankly, unsolved puzzles. Researchers have been chasing clues for a long, long time, and it's led to a couple of major theories about what's really going on inside us.
So you've got two main camps. On one hand, there are the damage-based theories. This is the one we're all familiar with. We're like a machine, slowly picking up rust and dents over a lifetime. On the other hand, you have programmatic theories, which say aging is actually written into our genes, kind of like planned obsolescence. And look, there's definitely truth in both of these, but neither one can fully explain why aging happens so consistently, or why some creatures live so much longer than others.
The damage theory for sure points to some real culprits. Our DNA gets typos, that's genome instability. The little protective caps on our chromosomes, our telomeres, they get shorter and shorter. Our cellular power plants, the mitochondria, they start to fizzle out. It paints a pretty convincing picture of slow, steady decay. But if it's just about damage, why can some animals regenerate entire limbs perfectly, while our bodies just form a scar? So, what if there's a third option? A really fascinating paper in the journal Advanced Science proposes a completely new way of looking at the problem. It suggests that aging isn't about breaking down at all, it's about getting lost. Okay, I know that is a mouthful, but let's just break it down. Cybernetic is just a fancy word for a system that steers itself towards a goal, kind of like how a thermostat keeps your room at the right temperature. This theory says our cells work together just like that, and their biggest goal? To build a body. But the really critical question is, what happens after that goal is accomplished? Here's a great way to think about it. Imagine your cells are an incredible construction crew, and they have a perfect blueprint to build a skyscraper. During development, they work together flawlessly. But once the building is totally finished, what do? If nobody gives them a new blueprint, the crew just starts to wander off. The whole organization breaks down. The researchers think this is what aging is, a team that has lost its collective goal.
So, how on earth do you even begin to test an idea like a loss of purpose in a lab? I mean, you can't exactly ask a liver cell if it's feeling motivated, right? Well, the scientists did something absolutely brilliant. They built a virtual organism.
They created a grid of digital cells, and they gave them one simple mission: work together to form a smiley face. Using a type of AI, they let the cells actually evolve the best way to communicate and organize themselves to achieve that goal. And it worked. They built a perfect smiley. But the real experiment, that began after the smiley was finished. They just let the simulation keep on running. And what they saw was just astounding. For the first 35 steps of the simulation, the cells built that smiley face, no problem. For the next 450 steps or so, the structure was totally stable. But then, after about 500 steps, it started to degrade. The eyes and mouth literally vanished. And here's the absolute kicker. This aging happened all on its own. There was no program damage, no wear and tear. The system had simply achieved its purpose, and without a new one, it started to fall apart.
And this is where the research goes from just a fascinating theory to a mind-blowing possibility. Because if aging is just a system that has forgotten its instructions, could you remind it? Could you actually turn back the clock?
So the researchers set out to do just that. They decided to intervene in their little aging virtual organism to try and give the disorganized cells a new sense of purpose and see if they could actually trigger rejuvenation. But before they could even try to fix the organism, they made a critical discovery. Even after an eye of the smiley had completely disappeared, they found that the virtual tissue around it still held on to a kind of ghost memory. The information about where that eye should be was still there, just dormant in the system. So they tried to use that memory to regrow the eye. The first attempt, and you can see it on the chart with that big bar, was to just reset the entire area. It worked, but it was inefficient, took about 25 separate pokes. Then they tried something more precise, just resetting the few cells that were wrong.
That was way better, dropping to around 10 interventions. But the most effective method, that tiny little bar on the right, was also the most subtle. They just reset the incorrect cells and their immediate neighbors. It was like a gentle nudge, just reminding the local neighborhood of the original plan. And it was, by far, the most efficient way to restore the whole thing. Okay, so this is obviously not just about virtual smileys. This research points toward a completely radical new way of thinking about our own health and longevity. It's suggesting a whole new goal for medicine itself. It's really a fundamental paradigm shift. For decades, we've had this hardware view of aging. Our body is a machine, it breaks down, and it needs physical repair. But this new software view suggests our body is much more like a computer, running an incredibly complex program. Aging isn't the hardware failing, it's an error in the software. So the solution isn't replacing parts, it's rebooting the biological program.
So, what are the biggest ideas to take away from all this? First, that aging might be better understood as a problem of information, a loss of direction, not just physical decay. Second, that our bodies might hold on to a secret memory of their healthy form, even when things start to go wrong. And third, and this is the really exciting part, this means that very precise, targeted nudges could potentially remind ourselves how to be healthy, opening the door to a future where we literally reboot our own biology.
This final quote from the researchers just crystallizes the whole powerful idea perfectly. It's not about fighting some losing battle against decay. It's about giving our cellular communities a new mission, a new blueprint to follow. And that mission is regeneration.
And that leaves us with a truly profound question. We've spent a century developing new drugs to patch up our failing hardware. But what if the next great medical revolution is all about communication, about learning the language of our cells, and simply reminding them of the beautiful, complex mission they once knew how to carry out perfectly?